Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I'm your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 187, and it's about autism. Specifically, it's about my autism and the experience of learning about it. Kind of gave it away there with the title. Hi, I'm autistic. Did you know? Yes, because you've read the title of this podcast. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you this is my experience. I am not a token representative of the autistic community. I'm just a 43-year-old woman who got an adult diagnosis. This happened a little over a year ago. I was assessed in April while I finished my assessment. And there are two different ways of getting assessed. There's something that they call the gold standard, and it's a much more vigorous process. And much more expensive. And I opted not to do that because I think they're very valid reasons to get the gold standard, which is like if you need support from, a university or other kind of institution, or perhaps you want to apply for funding or some other kind of supportive aid, then you would use that. I don't need those things. So I went the other route, which doesn't have a name, and it was still quite vigorous. I met many times with a specialist and asked me a bunch of questions, had me ask my mother some questions, and in the end, he was like, "Congratulations." So I'll go to the beginning. Why I decided to get assessed in the first place. It had not crossed my mind for most of my adult life. And then I got some very gentle suggestions from my autistic friends that maybe there was a reason we got on so well. And I was like, okay, well, if that's true, then that's fine. It's not like I'm not going to get assessed because it's not like there is a pill for it. And I wouldn't take it if there was, probably. So I'll just go on not knowing and knowing it. It might be a possibility, but what would it change? Why bother? That kind of thing. I also started to get gentle suggestions from my bestie. He has an autistic son, and as he watched his son grow and make choices, he kept being reminded of me, thinking like, that's something that Rachel would do. And that made me listen a little harder. And finally, it was a suggestion from my psychiatrist. I have a psychiatrist for mild anxiety from time to time. And we had met several times. And she suggested, there is a man across the hall who specializes, and I think it might be worth looking into this for yourself. And before I decided to get assessed, just the idea of it kind of had an elative effect. Considering that this might be true about me gave me a sense of profound peace and freedom. I can't really explain why that's the case, it just was. And after all of the many meetings with the specialist, and he finally gave me the diagnosis, I very much surprised myself by crying in the session. I was not expecting that. I was pretty well prepared for an affirmative answer. So I was caught off guard by an initial grief. How would my life have been different if I had known this sooner? What if my parents had known this? how would my life be different? And he said that that's pretty much everyone's first response, like, I wish that I had known. But like all what if questions, they're not useful, because the truth is, I didn't know, and I couldn't have known, because the skills that we have for assessing ASD are so more sophisticated, so much more sophisticated now than they were. They didn't really exist, at least not for the kind of child I was. And the other thing that I felt on getting the diagnosis was a vast and wonderful tenderness for the weird girl on the playground that was me, and how everyone seemed to peg me as different, and I didn't know why. And basically just an incredible amount of compassion for all iterations of my younger self, which was really, really beautiful to experience. Now, you may wonder, like, if you've known this a year, why are you only just now telling us? Well, because it's mine and I can do whatever I want with it. And I just wanted it for myself, for a while. But I did, like, immediately tell some people, and I haven't kept it a secret or anything. But I also haven't made an announcement, and I think it's a personal choice, obviously. You don't have to announce jack shit unless you want to. But I will tell you about the experience of telling people expectation versus reality. Now, so given the spaces that I tend to operate in, creative spaces, artistic spaces, circus, 95% of everyone that I know and interact with is neurodivergent in some way. And so because those are the spaces I tend to inhabit, I expected 100% support, acceptance, and understanding. That has not been the case. I definitely have gotten that from my autistic friends. I've gotten it from my close friends. And from other friends, I've gotten, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. Or, this is not news to me, Rachel. Fair enough. Almost no one asked me how I felt about it. So the first thing that really surprised me about telling people is how often they make it about their feelings and not about something new that they are learning about you. Even more surprising were the people who I told who just flat out refused to accept it and just said, no, you're not, with a roll of the eyes and a flip of the hand. And I'm like, oh, that's not what I expected. And some people even seemed to get angry at me for daring to challenge their viewpoint on who I was. And so I've kept it a little closer to my chest after those experiences, understandably. So if the next question is, are you glad that you did it? Yes. Yes, I am. Why? What has it changed? Here is what it has changed in my interior world. I have so much more patience and understanding for myself. If I get overwhelmed or overstimulated, I don't try to talk myself out of it anymore, or like, come on, buck up. No, I just do whatever it is that I want to do to take care of myself. And sometimes that's leaving. And sometimes it's asking for what I need or making a change to the environment. And there's a word for this, and it's called unmasking. I didn't dive into a bunch of research, but I did read Devin Price's Unmasking Autism, and that was helpful for giving me sort of a framework and getting to benefit from their perspective and their experience. And I've really enjoyed the experience of really paying attention to myself, and if something occurs, or something comes up, something's uncomfortable, or my brain is working in a certain way and no one else's seems to be working in that way, I no longer just assume that there's something wrong with me. I'm like, oh, well, there's could be the teasy. I also think it's hilarious to call it the teasy, and I am not going to stop doing it. Now, next question. How has it changed in my experience of the world, like in relationship to others? What changed with people that I've told? And the answer to that is jack shit. And I want to take you so tenderly by the hand if this is a situation that you're in or that you think you might be in. And, expectation versus reality. Oh, this is new information. Perhaps we'll use that information moving forward. No, my love. No, they probably won't. And even when people are perfectly welcoming and accepting of this new information, they're happy for you and they're supportive. They're not going to change their behavior, especially if you're a masker. Which, did that make sense? Can you masker? Wow, that's awful. If you're very good at masking, which I consider myself to be, the world will continue to expect this of you. I don't even think that it is, there's no malevolent intent there. They're just going along living their lives, and you are who you've always been to them, and they know you as the masked men, the masked version of yourself. Now, in some cases, while you unmask and your behavior starts to change, so you're refusing to continue to mask in some instances, you may get pushback. Makes sense, doesn't it? Perhaps a period of adjustment. Do what's best for you. Always. Always do what's best for you. You are your responsibility. We have to take care of ourselves so that we can... Let me rephrase that. I hate overly individualized thinking, like, you must take care of you. Yes, of course. Like, you are you. You should be taking care of you. And you can also help other people understand what you need. But yeah, they're not going to be like, oh, okay, so such and such has ASD, so maybe having the TV on and music loudly in the background isn't the best environment for that. They're not going to know. They're not going to think about it. It has taken some of my closer relationships all this time, like over a year, to actually begin to grok the reality of the situation and take it into consideration when I don't behave as expected, or when I react strongly to something that they consider easy and innocuous, like diverting my attention. If I am doing something, you should probably just let me keep doing that thing. And for a lot of people, and it's fair, okay, fair, I get it, it's annoying. You're like, why can't you, like, if I need to tell you something, why can't I just interrupt you and tell you, and then you can go back to what you're doing? Because I can't. And it has taken this long, like, to actually sink into some of my relationships. Like, okay, it is involuntary. I am not choosing to respond this way. In fact, I am choosing to damp down my response quite a bit in most cases. And now I'm going to tell you the most helpful analogy that I have heard about ASD. Because it is a spectrum, but spectrum in the way that the layperson understands the word spectrum doesn't work as well as this following analogy. because the word spectrum implies to the layperson, and I include myself in that, that if you're on the more extreme end of the spectrum, it means you have all the symptoms on that spectrum leading up to that point. And that's not true. A better analogy is to think of it like a box of crayons. Let's say there's 100 crayons, one of those big, really cool crayon boxes, the kind with the sharpener in the back. Those were awesome. So if every color represents a symptom, right? An allistic means, I don't know, normal, stupid word. Let's dismiss that word. But most people would pick like 10 crayons out of the box. Every crayon is a symptom. Most people would probably pick 10. Someone with mild ASD might pick 30. Someone with requiring very high support ASD might choose 90. But the crayons are picked one at a time, not continuously from beginning to end. So if someone does have like a very high level of ASD that requires high support for them to function day to day, they may have 90 symptoms. And avoiding eye contact might not be one of them because it's not a spectrum the way that we tend to understand spectrums. That analogy was so helpful at getting me to understand, like, but I don't have these symptoms. Yeah, because those aren't the 30 crayons that I got out of the box. Pretty cool, huh? As to why I have decided to record this episode, please don't send me condolences. I'm good. Or even congratulations. Like, you don't have to say anything to me unless you want to, because I always like hearing from y'all. But it's helpful to share your experience. It's helpful to hear other people's experiences. And it was just time, and I just felt like it. I will now go on to give some advice for folks who, if you're in this situation, for telling people. And my advice is to be very loose with your expectations for how they're going to respond. Remember that their response is really so much more about them than it is about you. And like I said, I was surprised how many people, when I told them, made it about their feelings and didn't even think to ask me, well, how do you feel about that? Like, are you good? And here's some things. If you are a person being told from a friend or someone else in your life, hello, I have been assessed. Turns out I'm autistic. Here's some things not to say. Okay? Number 1, no, you're not. Don't do it. Number 2, but you don't look autistic. That's not a thing. It's not a thing. Okay? Number 3, but you don't fill in the blank with a symptom that they associate with ASD. Like, but you don't avoid eye contact, or but you like concerts. They're just, I know you want to understand. But I wouldn't recommend it. And final, and my personal least favorite, but isn't everyone a little autistic? No, Sharon, they're not. No, everyone is not a little autistic, okay? I think people mean really well when they respond with that. But isn't everyone a little autistic? But it mostly just feels dismissive, and it feels like erasure. Like, no, this is like a thing. This has been an event. And this is important information for me. So just dismissing it as like, but it's not really, is not the best. So maybe stop saying that. In conclusion, no one really understands exactly what ASD is. Like, the more it's studied, the more we realize, the less we understand. What we tend to have are popularized concepts that are deeply embedded in our belief systems and are deeply informed by the media, by movies and television. And historically, ASD characters in shows and movies are almost completely represented by male characters with a level of ASD that requires a high level of support. I know it's particularly challenging to assess in those who have been socialized female, because we are masters of disguise. But for when you are, I don't know, maybe feeling a little confused about it or wanting to understand, just remember the crayon analogy. And just because you have one crayon doesn't mean you have to have another crayon. For example, eye contact. I am an eye contact junkie. I love it. And some of the best eye contact I get is from my other friends with ASD. And as far as the question of, do you believe that this is a disability? I mean, autism spectrum disorder implies like this is a disability, and that completely depends on who you ask. Like, a person gets to decide, right? There are some people that are like, no, I am not disabled, I'm gifted. And there are some people who are like, no, this is a disability. It has made my life more challenging. I have less access than someone who doesn't have ASD. Do I believe that it has put me personally at a disadvantage? Sometimes, absolutely. It's absolutely put me at a disadvantage. Would I trade it in for an holistic brain? Hell no. I love my brain. I love the way I think. I like the stuff that I dream up. I like the things that I create. And if I wasn't autistic, would my brain work this way? I don't want to risk it. I think my brain is beautiful and I love how it sings. And this ASD may have made my life more difficult, but so has being a woman, and I wouldn't change that either. Both are gifts. That is it from me today, my friends. I have gone past 20 minutes, and thank you for listening and tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. Thank you so much for letting me talk into your ear for 20 minutes at a time every week. I really appreciate you so much. If you have requests for future episodes, I would love to hear them. You can reach me always on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast is powered by Patreon. Patrons, you the real MVPs. Y'all, thank you so much. Thank you for trusting me, standing with me. This and myself in this way, I could not exist without you. Thank you. Until next time, my friends, enjoy yourself the last weekend in May and enjoy your particular flavor of magical electric brain meat. What a world. What a world. Don't go back to sleep.